Austin, Texas, a strip mall at night. A frozen yogurt shop with bright windows and a cheerful name. The kind of place that feels harmless. That's why what happened here didn't just become a case. It became a scar the city carried for decades. Just before midnight on December 6, 1991, a patrol officer sees flames coming from the shop on West Anderson Lane. Fire crews arrive fast, pushing through smoke and sprinkler runoff. Inside is a scene that turns a normal address into a permanent memory. The killer didn't just commit murder. The killer tried to erase the truth with fire. That matters, because arson doesn't only destroy a building. It attacks evidence, timelines, and certainty. It turns an investigation into a fight against missing pieces. For years, people ask the same question in new ways. How do you solve a case where the answers were burned? How do you trust a confession when science contradicts it? How do you close something that never stops echoing? In this video, we look at what happened, what investigators believed, where the case went wrong, and what finally changed when modern forensic work made the evidence speak again. This isn't just a mystery. It's a warning about certainty without proof. The victims were Jennifer Harbison, 17, Sarah Harbison, 15, Eliza Thomas, 17, and Amy Ayers, 13. Jennifer and Eliza worked at the shop. Sarah and Amy were there near closing, in the last ordinary hour of the night. This is the part people forget, the boring final routine, wiping counters, counting the till, talking about weekend plans, the kind of normal that makes danger feel impossible. Nothing in a teenager's life trains you to expect the worst at work. The shop sat in a normal retail strip, surrounded by roads, lights, and other businesses, not a remote cabin, not an empty highway, a place that should have had witnesses. That contrast made the fear spread faster because it felt like it could happen anywhere. Investigators would conclude the girls were restrained, shot, and the fire was set after the sprinkler system and firefighting response saved the building, but also complicated the scene. The killer's strategy was simple: create chaos, then disappear inside it. Austin wasn't prepared to be the city with this story. Parents rewrote rules overnight. Teen curfews tightened. Every late ride home felt heavier. When a case like this hits, it becomes a second weather system over ordinary life. From the start, pressure built for an answer. Pressure doesn't only push detectives forward, it also pulls them toward the first story that feels convincing. And in a case this brutal, convincing can become more important than true. Thousands of tips pour in. Some are sincere, some are rumor, some are attention-seeking. High-profile cases attract noise like a magnet. The challenge becomes separating signal from static, while the public demands closure now, not later. Early on, investigators face a brutal handicap. The crime scene is damaged by fire and water. Evidence can be degraded. DNA can be partial. Prints can be smeared. Timelines can blur. The case is born with obstacles, and every obstacle invites mistakes. In this era, forensic tech is not what it is today. Databases are smaller. DNA tools are less sensitive. Cross-state sharing is slower. A killer who travels can outrun local investigations simply by being mobile and by leaving little behind. That's why investigators lean heavily on interviews and confessions. They're immediate. They feel decisive. But confessions can be fragile, especially with young suspects, long interrogations, and aggressive tactics. A confession can be a door or just paint on a wall. Within a week, a teenager named Morris Pierce is arrested at a mall for bringing a gun. The gun is the same make and model as one believed used in the murders. It's a coincidence that feels like destiny, and the system grabs it hard. After hours of questioning, Pierce confesses. Confessions are powerful because they let everyone breathe. But the next morning, a detective interviews him again and realizes key details don't line up with the actual scene. The confession starts to crumble. Ballistics testing on the .22 is inconclusive. Not a clean match, not a clean exclusion, just uncertainty. And uncertainty is dangerous because people use it to keep believing whatever story they already want to be true. As months pass, the case becomes mythology. Sightings, rumors, I heard, timelines, people replay the night, trying to find the moment the killer entered. But memory is messy, and fear edits memory into something that feels certain. The city learns an ugly lesson. The public wants a narrative like a movie. Clear villain, clear motive, dramatic reveal. Real investigations are fragments and probabilities. When you force a movie onto reality, you start casting suspects instead of following evidence. Years later, the case is still open, still bleeding time. Detectives rotate, leads cool, evidence sits in storage. Families carry grief that doesn't get lighter, only older. And every year without an answer makes the next year feel harder to fix. In 1999, a dedicated task force revisits the case with fresh energy. That sounds like hope, but it also means old pressure returns. Solve it, close it, name someone, and pressure has a way of steering investigations toward the fastest ending. Task force attention turns to 4 men connected by social circles and prior trouble: Morris Pierce, Robert Springsteen, Michael Scott, and Forrest Wellburn. The theory begins to solidify. Multiple attackers, roles, a lookout, a coordinated hit. 2 of them, Springsteen and Scott, eventually confess and implicate each other. The statements are long, layered, and intertwined. The problem is that intertwined confessions can reinforce themselves, even when they're built from suggestion and fear. All 4 are arrested for capital murder in 1999. For the public, it feels like the end. For the system, it feels like control has returned. But an arrest is not truth, it's a claim. And claims have to survive evidence. Trials follow. Confession evidence becomes central. The case is emotionally overwhelming, and juries are human. When people hear confession, they want to believe it. They imagine no one would admit to something like this unless it happened. Springsteen receives a death sentence. Scott receives life without parole. Austin exhales. Headlines imply resolution. But the most important question remains. What physical evidence ties them to the scene beyond words said in an interrogation room? Over time, cracks show. Confessions are attacked as coerced. Details don't match. The legal footing becomes unstable, partly because of how statements were used against each other. The case starts to look less like certainty and more like a structure built on sand. A big vulnerability when one defendant's confession is used against another. Courts scrutinize confrontation rights. If those rights are violated, convictions can be overturned. Legal standards shift, and what worked in one era can fail in the next. Then science arrives like a cold wind. DNA testing produces an unknown male YSTR profile from forensic evidence. Critically, the profile does not match the accused men. Exclusion doesn't solve a case, but it demolishes a story that depended on them. In 2009, prosecutors dismissed the charges against Springsteen and Scott. The case returns to unsolved. The system steps back, but the damage remains. Years lost, lives defined by suspicion, a public memory that doesn't update as fast as the truth. Here's what makes wrongful accusation uniquely brutal. You can be freed and still not be clean. Without a formal declaration of innocence, consequences remain. Reputation, employment, legal records, freedom without acknowledgement is not the same as justice. Meanwhile, investigators keep collecting reference DNA from potential suspects and eliminations. Hundreds of samples, no match. The case becomes a long walk through fog. You know there's an answer, but you can't see it. The families live in a different kind of time. Every anniversary reopens the same wound. Every rumor is a small torture, and every new lead risks hope turning into disappointment again. Cold cases don't freeze pain, they preserve it. Public fascination grows, and so does misinformation. That's the danger of high-profile cases. People fill gaps with stories. The investigation needs discipline, patience, and tech. But patience is expensive, and discipline is hard under constant scrutiny. In 2025, renewed attention arrives through a major documentary series that puts the case back in front of the public. That spotlight can reopen trauma, but it can also push institutions to retest evidence, recheck assumptions, and do the slow work people once avoided. The key principle is simple. Narratives can rot, but evidence can survive. If you keep the evidence and technology improves, the past can become readable in a way it wasn't before. The case isn't only about what happened, it's also about when tools caught up. In 2022, Detective Daniel Jackson is assigned to the case and begins methodical review. He meets DNA experts and sets a tiered plan for retesting, not dramatic work, inventory work, the kind that changes outcomes quietly. Then he notices something specific, a .380 cartridge casing recovered from a drain at the scene. It hadn't been re-entered into modern ballistic systems in years. Software improves, databases grow. He resubmits it. In July 2025, that casing produces a hit. It links to an unsolved 1998 murder in Kentucky. One piece of metal becomes a bridge across states and years. It doesn't solve everything, but it proves the evidence still has a voice. Next comes DNA coordination. Jackson requests a manual WISE-TR search across labs nationwide. Several partial hits appear. Then a lab returns a full 27-allele WISE-TR match to the unknown profile. This is a rare moment where uncertainty snaps into alignment. That WISE-TR profile links back to a 1990 case in Greenville, South Carolina. Sexual assault and murder evidence with the same male line marker. The name attached to that profile is Robert Eugene Brashers. APD publicly announces a significant breakthrough. DNA and ballistics identify Brashers as the suspect in the 1991 yogurt shop murders. The tone is careful because official language matters. It signals confidence in evidence, not a need for headlines. Brashers is described by prosecutors as a serial killer and rapist with multiple murders tied to him. That reframes the case. It suggests the killer wasn't necessarily a local figure everyone would recognize. He may have been transient, moving through Texas like a shadow. Then comes one of the most chilling details. Within 48 hours of the murders, Brashers is stopped by Border Patrol at a westbound checkpoint between El Paso and Las Cruces. He's driving a stolen car and has a .380 pistol. APD states the .380 pistol from that stop is the same gun Brashers later uses to kill himself in 1999. Investigators connect the weapon history to ballistic evidence associated with the yogurt shop scene. The timeline doesn't just fit, it locks. Think about what that means. While Austin is still in shock, while families are still waiting for answers, the suspected killer is already moving west. The case becomes unsolved, not because no one cared, but because the right name wasn't reachable yet. This is how cold cases survive. The suspect becomes a silhouette. You can't arrest a silhouette. You can't interrogate a silhouette. You can only preserve evidence and wait for science to make the silhouette solid enough to identify. For the men once accused, the breakthrough is both relief and rage. Years were taken from them by a story that didn't match the science. When the system is wrong, it doesn't only fail the victims, it creates new victims with legal paperwork. The Travis County District Attorney's Office files notice of exculpatory evidence and asks the court to appoint counsel, acknowledging the men were left in limbo by dismissed cases and lingering consequences. It's a step toward correcting the record publicly and legally. In February 2026, a judge formally declares 4 men wrongly accused, Springsteen, Scott, Wellborn, and Pierce, innocent. That word matters. Dismissed is not innocent. Innocence is the record telling the truth after decades of noise. Prosecutors issue apologies and acknowledge the injustice. That doesn't restore time, but it restores reality. It tells the public what it should have been told long ago. Certainty was manufactured, and the evidence did not support the story that took over. For the victims' families, the moment is complicated. Brashers is dead, so there's no trial, no cross-examination, no sentencing. A name can bring answers, but it can't deliver the courtroom closure people imagine. Sometimes truth arrives without ceremony. This case also forces a hard question. What is justice when the suspect can't be tried? Some families want punishment, some want certainty, some want the city to admit it failed them. Often, justice is not one thing, it's a bundle of unmet needs. The fire at the scene becomes symbolic. Arson was the killer's attempt to destroy the future, but evidence survived. A casing in a drain, biological material preserved in kits, files that stayed stored. The past kept a small voice until technology could hear it. The lesson about confessions is just as important. Confessions can be contaminated by exhaustion, suggestion, fear, and the human urge to end pressure. A confession can feel like truth while being nothing more than compliance, dressed up as certainty. The lesson about forensics is quieter. Science is not instant, it's a timeline. In 1991, tools were limited. In the 2000s, exclusions changed the ground. In 2025, databases, YSTR, searching, and improved ballistic systems created the breakthrough. The lesson about systems is the hardest. A justice system can injure twice. Once by failing to catch the right person, and again by grabbing the wrong person to satisfy public fear. In the gap, the only winner is the offender who stays free. If you take one principle from this story, take this: evidence outlives narratives. Narratives can be persuasive, emotional, and wrong. Evidence can be quiet, incomplete, and still true. The job is to protect the evidence until the truth can be extracted. Austin carried this case for more than 3 decades, not because the city wanted to, but because it had to. 4 girls lost their futures. 4 men lost years under accusation, and only modern forensic work finally forced the story to align with reality.